XRP holders, let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly right now in the crypto market. Please read the disclaimer. So let's start out with, you could say it's the bad or the concerning here. Right now, the Clarity Act just hit a wall. Senate Democrats are now refusing to back the bill unless it includes strict ethic rules targeting the Trump family's 1 billion plus crypto empire. Republicans need 7 Democrat votes to pass it. With midterm looming, the entire US crypto market structure hangs on this unresolved provision. And there is some fears that this could be the thorn that eventually shuts down the Clarity Act. We have Eleanor reporting that the Clarity Act faces a 10-week runway as August deadline nears. Some Senate math and what it means for Clarity Act in her article here. You can go and check out Eleanor. She is one of the best in the biz getting information from Washington. And it seems that there could potentially be some bumps in the road here for the Clarity Act. So let's say that's the bad. I started out with the bad. You get it out of the way, and let's go to some of the good. Okay, so right now there's a Bitcoin conference going on in Las Vegas. I don't know if you're there. I'm not there this year, maybe next year, but there are some nuggets that are coming out of that conference. And we have Senator Loomis saying this.
In Washington, we are going to mark up the Clarity Act in May. We are going to get it to the finish line. We are going to have the market structure that allows us to innovate, you to innovate, America to lead the world on this freedom asset. God bless you. Thank you very much in Washington.
So she's positive, she's confident that Clarity Act is going to pass. Now, she can be confident, but again, if the Democrats are not on board with this, if they don't have those 7 votes, then this could potentially be problematic for the Clarity Act right now. And again, the thinking here is that we're going to get it passed in May, but maybe that doesn't happen, and you have to be ready for that possibility, okay? But also at the conference, right, we're talking the good. SEC Chairman Paul Atkins had this to say.
Blockchain for me is the distributed ledger technology for me is the most exciting aspect about all this. So I hesitate to say it at a Bitcoin conference, but I'm basically agnostic as to the actual tokens themselves and whatnot, and may the markets decide what's best. But the prospect of having T0, what we say, instantaneous settlement for many instruments. It probably won't work for everything, but to have that delivery versus payment, receipt versus payment, immediacy on chain, I think is the most exciting to de-risk our financial system, because every second that you have a difference between the transaction time and then clearance and settlement is a risk that the investor and both parties bear. So anyway, so we're out to try to foster that, to enable that to happen here in the United States. There are a lot of incumbent players, all with the current exchanges and everything else, but we want to make this open to them too. This is a way for them to de-risk their own markets. And then there are great ideas out there from all sorts of other, people who are on the crypto native, blockchain native community. So we want to let all these different flowers bloom, and so it'll just strengthen the United States as a marketplace for ideas and for financial innovation, and that's better for the world. It's better for consumers, investors, and our economy as a whole, I think. So that's what we're out to do.
So think about this. The SEC chairman was just at a Bitcoin conference a year and a half ago, or even more, right? It's already was November of 2024. So yeah, a year and a half ago, we wouldn't have seen the SEC chairman, Gary Gensler, at a Bitcoin conference, nor we would not hear him talking about how blockchain technology needs to be adopted so that the financial systems could be better, right? That was not on the plate just a short period of time ago. And now we've totally flipped to a different scenario, to a different ecosystem, to a different era of the crypto market. Now, I know that the prices right now are not that great, and the crypto market is in this kind of lull. Interest is down. People are looking at the stock market and saying, oh my God, stock market is all-time high. Crypto is lagging behind. But I've seen this in the past. I've seen these lulls, and my experience has told me that out of these lulls come great rallies. Does that mean that it's going to happen this time? No, but that's just what history has told me. Again, as always, these are just my opinions. This video is for educational purposes, for entertainment purposes only, not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence before you decide to invest. Very, very important. But that was not the only thing that was there at this conference. We also had the White House executive director saying this.
Overall, the president signed the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Executive Order last year, and we've gone to work in figuring out exactly the machinations necessary and legal interpretations that we need to get that right and solidify that and protect the digital assets, but specifically Bitcoin that we have on the government balance sheet. So in the next few weeks, we'll be making a big announcement. I think we have a bit of a breakthrough there. And obviously that needs to be followed up with legislation. Senator Lummis's Bitcoin Act over in the House. Representative Begich has talked about the ARMA Act that he has put together. So we need to codify it. But in the meantime, we do believe we're going to be able to take a big step forward from the executive branch side in the next few weeks.
That's huge news.
So we got this big news about the Bitcoin reserve. And of course, you might say, oh, what does this have to do with XRP? Well, of course, it has to do with XRP because right now the crypto market is beating to the drum of Bitcoin. You can say, no, it isn't, but yes, it is, right? Because right now, Bitcoin is stuck. Crypto is stuck. The crypto markets are stuck. And because of that, XRP is stuck too. Right? Of course, there's always some runners. If you go and you look, there are some runners, there are some movers, there are some shakers, but the top assets, the top crypto tokens are not moving price action wise, even have been declining over the past few days, going into the FOMC meeting happening tomorrow and the Fed decision on interest rates. You can see XRP, where we were concerned, did have that crossover on the 1348 EMA, Avi's amazing indicator. If you want it, by the way, you can sign up on my website here and you can receive the indicator, by the way. Some of you have and are using it. If you're interested, you can get it. It's for free, but you just have to do some things here to sign up and get it. And so we did also, like I've told you, the indicator sometimes is off, right? Where on the daily chart, it gave us a green signal and then a red signal right away because the market flipped. It doesn't mean that every time we get that signal, the market is going to go bananas. It has happened in the past, but it doesn't mean that there can't be choppiness up and down, and consolidation in the market. That's why we don't use one indicator. We don't use one technical analysis of a breakout of a trend line. I've told you this before. If technical analysis and indicators always worked, then everybody that uses those things would be a trillionaire, and that's not the case. There's always news, there's the market, there's black swan events, so we have to be ready for all those types of scenarios. It's a tool that gives us another thing that to consider for our possible trades or our possible investments, okay? Any single investment is a speculation, and we need to think to ourselves, what is the risk and what is the reward? And do I want to get into that specific investment? Okay, so that's very important to remember. This is interesting from Coinbase. Coinbase says we are unlocking stablecoin payments around the world. Coinbase is unlocking. It says Neum operates in 190 countries. All the customers can fund payouts and USDC and settle in their local currencies with no wire delays. And he says an estimated 60 billion was spent on remittance fees in 2025. This could be almost zero with stablecoins. So he's telling us here we could have a $60 billion savings just on these remittance fees for international transfers. Recently, I did an international transfer and they took, I think it was like $50 or $100. I don't even remember why, right? So the banks can continue to make money. Well, with stablecoins, we can potentially do this with a very small gas fee. And so that could potentially be the future. And if you've been watching the channel for a while, You know that I think that stablecoins is the gateway crypto for normies, for regular people that are going to use crypto for the first time in the state of stablecoins. And then they'll say to themselves, you know what? This crypto isn't as complicated as I thought. It isn't as complicated or dangerous as what's her name? I forgot now. Nickname Pocahontas. That she continues to spew right on the crypto market, and then they'll start looking. Oh, maybe you know what? I'll open that Coinbase account or that BTCC account, our partner here on the channel, and start trading crypto. Right, and so remember, less than 10% of the world population owns some type of crypto. There's still a huge amount of population that will have access or easy access to the crypto market in the coming years, not to mention all the AI and AI bots and AI agents that will potentially be transacting in the crypto market in a big way very, very soon. Okay. And so when we look at the current situation of the crypto market and we look what's happening, we also have the Fed chairman, right, coming out and telling us these things, right?
What we call AI in a couple of years, we'll just call business. And AI is going to make almost everything cost less. And the U.S. can be a big winner. And it's a hugely exciting moment. If I were to step back for a minute, if I were the president, what I'd be worried about is a central bank that doesn't see any of that. A central bank that is stuck with models from 1978, governance from a prior period, and don't recognize we could be at the front end of a productivity boom. And if I were the president, I'd be worried that they might not see it. And they might think economic growth is somehow going to be inflationary. I think we were probably in the early innings of a structural decline in prices. Ken sees it on the front lines of real businesses. And I think if you look over the period of the next year or two, it's a pretty special moment. What we call AI.
So, like I said, AI is going to need to transact somehow. These agents, what he's talking about, the new financial productivity, the new financial systems will need a way to transact. And they're going to transact in cryptocurrency. It's kind of a byproduct. I don't think that when crypto was created, that was the thought, but it kind of like fell into that pocket where it just works beautifully. And there's no reason why we need to create a new thing when we already have this thing, right? So this could be a potential huge thing for the crypto market going forward. Now let's talk a little bit about the current situation between Iran and the US and the peace agreements and the ceasefire agreements. Right now, President Trump is not happy. Reports are coming out that he's not happy about the current deal, and he's rejecting their proposals. We also have Secretary of State Mark Rubio saying Iran is using the Strait of Hormuz as an economic nuclear weapon. They're bragging about how they can hold 20% of the world's energy hostage. This is their card, right? This is what they're holding. If they did not have this, again, this would have been over very, very quickly. The fact that when you have leverage, then you can come with demands. And all this situation is creating uncertainty in the market, right? If you've been watching the channel for a while, you know that it's not my theory, but my thinking is that when there's uncertainty, investors sit on the sidelines. When there's uncertainty, people like to stay in cash. When you have more clarity, when you have a clear direction, when you know where things are going and things that are heavily affecting what people are doing right now in this certain scenario, then money starts flowing in. Another thing that happens, and I've mentioned this before in the past, is the pre-investing. So what you'll potentially have is you'll have big money that is looking at the current climate and is looking at the current situation and saying to themselves, okay, 6 months from now, A, B, and C could potentially happen. Is it worthwhile my risk? And to what we talked about before, is it worthwhile my risk right now to start investing heavily into the market, bringing out cash? In 2008 and 2009, for example, you had a situation where the US economy was still in a bad shape. But economists were already predicting that about 6 months or a year from then, the economy would recover and things would be better. And you saw the stock market recovering, right, already before the economy was recovering. So the stock market was going up, whereas the financial data that was coming out was not great because investors had looked at the sell-off and said, okay, it's already sold off enough. And we're predicting that in 6 months, when we actually recover, all this money is going to be coming in. We are already pre-buying. So they bought and the market started recovering. People started feeling a little bit better about the market and things started going up. And the market recovered some of its losses, not all. It took a while for the market to recover back then, but it was pre-running. It stopped selling off at a certain point, even though the market, the economy was still doing bad. These are the kinds of things that we could potentially see here in the crypto market, where big investors, big buyers are feeling a little bit more confident about the Clarity Act, a little bit more confident about the Iran USA situation, and they start heavily buying this current situation and moving the markets up. By the way, this already happened with the stock market, but the crypto market has the Clarity Act as a weight that's still holding it down. If we are able to get Clarity Act passed, and we as a we need the politicians to do it, then we'll have a big weight lifted from the crypto market. And I think that is when the crypto market will get a little bit more momentum. Again, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I still think that that's going to happen. And I think that there is already some pre-buying, but not enough, not in a huge amount. You can see that there has been some pre-buying because Bitcoin has, over the past few weeks, since the beginning of April, right, has been up almost 17%, which is a good month for Bitcoin. Like if we go and we look at the monthly chart, right, there has been some big months to the downside recently, but we haven't had a nice month like this since basically November, right, of 24, when Bitcoin was up there 36% on the month. But since then, we haven't had a month where Bitcoin has gone up this much. We've had a 14% month there in May, and we've had bigger sell-off months like this month here, where Bitcoin dropped to 17%. This was November of 25, after, of course, October 10th, but we haven't had such a good month for Bitcoin in a while. So this could be a precursor to potentially what is happening. Again, if we look at the monthly, we can see that Bitcoin is, again, at the bottom of the stochastic RSI, similar for XRP, that you've seen here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 red months, and potentially a first green month in a very long time, basically since October 10th. So there's only a few more days. Hopefully I didn't jinx it, right? But this could be a potential sign of recovery here for the crypto market and potentially a movement back to 2 if we get all the things right here for XRP in the next coming weeks. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time. And like I always say, let's make a lot of money.